Dad, you deserve a break. That is what my son told me while handing me an envelope with 2 tickets. Take David with you. It will do you good to get out a bit. It seemed like a beautiful gesture. 2 old friends, 2 widowers, ready to laugh again. But when we tried to return, the airport counter told us something I will never forget. Gentlemen, your return tickets never existed. That day I understood that sometimes the most expensive trips are not paid with money. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Every day there is a new story on William's Revenge, stories that could change the way you see the world. Tell us where you are watching from. My name is Robert. I am 78 years old and have a memory that still works better than my knees. And what I am about to tell you started as a gift, a beautiful gesture, an act of love that I waited for during 2 years of loneliness. It was a Sunday in June, Father's Day, when my son Jason invited me to dinner at his apartment. He had not invited me to anything for months. I put on my only suit, the same one I wore to my wife Emily's funeral, and I was excited like a child. David, my neighbor and best friend, was also invited by his son Oliver. They are going to celebrate us together, David told me in the elevator. Can you imagine? I smiled. For the first time in years, I felt that maybe my prayers had been heard. Maybe my son finally saw me again. Jason's apartment was huge, with floor-to-ceiling windows and white furniture that looked scary to touch. There was a long table decorated with candles and flowers, and a blonde woman I did not know was pouring wine into crystal glasses. Dad, this is Tiffany, my fiancée. We are getting married soon. She shook my hand without smiling, her nails painted bright red. Oliver was also there, David's son, a thin man in a dark suit with a serious face. The 4 of us sat down to dinner. Me, David, Jason, and Oliver. Tiffany served the food as if she owned the place. It was chicken in a sauce that tasted like nothing, but I ate it with gusto because it had been so long since I had dinner with my son. David also ate slowly, looking at his son with that mixture of love and pain that only abandoned parents understand. And then, after dessert, Jason and Oliver looked at each other and smiled. Dad, said Jason, standing up. David. The 2 separated and took 2 white envelopes out of a drawer. We want to give you something. You have suffered a lot with the loss of your wives. You have been alone, and we believe you deserve a break. Oliver nodded. So we bought you a trip to Greece. 15 days. All expenses paid. Jason put the envelope in front of me. Oliver put the other one in front of David. We both opened them at the same time. Inside were plane tickets, hotel reservations, printed itineraries, Athens, Santorini, Mykonos, the places Emily and I dreamed of visiting when we were young and believed we would have time. I felt something stuck in my throat. It was not pure happiness. It was something more complicated, gratitude mixed with surprise. And maybe, deep down, a small question. Why now? David was crying. He cried openly with the tickets in his hand. Son, I do not know what to say. Oliver put his hand on his shoulder. Do not say anything, Dad. Just enjoy it. You both deserve it. I looked at Jason. He looked at me with that smile he used when he was a child, when he asked me for money for the movies or to go out with his friends. Thank you, son, I said. It is too much. It is not too much, he replied. It is the least I can do after everything you did for me. He hugged me. It was a quick hug, but I squeezed him tight because it had been so long since he hugged me. Tiffany clapped from her seat. How lovely. You are going to have an incredible time. David and I looked at each other from our sides of the table. He was smiling. Me too. But something in his look told me that he also felt that small discomfort, that little voice that whispers, "This is too good to be true." After dinner, while David and I waited for the Uber outside the building, he said something to me. Robert, does it not seem strange? I looked at him. What? That they both gave us the same trip, the same dates, to the same place. I shrugged. Maybe they planned it together. They are friends, right? David nodded slowly. Yes, that must be it. But neither of us sounded convinced. The Uber arrived and we got in silence. The whole way home, I looked out the window thinking about Emily. How happy she would be if she knew I was finally going to see Greece. And then I remembered something she told me once. Gifts without a reason always have a reason. I did not understand what she meant at that moment, but I would understand soon. A week later, Jason arrived at my house without warning. He brought his briefcase and Tiffany with him. Dad, before the trip, I need you to sign some papers. It is international medical insurance, in case something happens to you over there. I grabbed the papers. There were many, too many. Is all this for insurance? Jason nodded. It is protocol. That is how it works with international travel for people your age. Tiffany sat on the sofa where Emily used to read, looking at her cell phone. I started signing. 1 page, 2, 5, 10. Here too, Dad. And here, and here. I signed where he pointed because I trusted my son, because you trust your blood. When I finished, Jason put the papers quickly into his briefcase. Ready. You are protected now. He patted me on the shoulder. You are going to have a lot of fun, Dad. And they left. Later, I learned that those papers were no insurance. They were power of attorney documents. They were bank authorizations. They were my death sentence signed by my own hand. The day of the flight arrived faster than I expected. Jason told me he would pick us up at 5 in the morning to take us to the airport, but at 4:30 a message arrived. Dad, sorry. An emergency came up at the construction site. I sent Matthew. He will take you. Matthew is my grandson. He is 18 and is on the autism spectrum. He does not talk much, but when he speaks, he says important things. He arrived in an Uber with swollen eyes as if he had not slept. The whole way to the airport, he held my hand. Tight, with desperation. David was in the front talking to the driver. I looked at Matthew. Are you okay, son? He did not look at me. He just squeezed harder. And when we arrived at the airport, when David and I got out with our old suitcases, Matthew hugged me. He hugged me so tight I felt his ribs against mine. Grandpa, he whispered in my ear. Count the days. He said it so low I almost did not hear him. What did you say? But he had already gotten into the Uber. I saw him through the glass. He was crying. David put his hand on my shoulder. That boy has something we still do not see. On the plane, David and I toasted with those cheap whiskeys they give you in plastic cups. We were excited. Scared, too, because neither of us had left the country in years. Do you think Greece is as pretty as in the photos? David asked me. Prettier, I told him. Emily always said Greece was the place where the gods fell in love. David smiled. My wife said it was the place where the sea kissed the sky. We toasted to them. To Emily. To David's wife. To the loves that left and left us alone. And then David said something that gave me a slight chill, but I still did not understand why. Robert, do you know how much a trip like this costs? I looked at him. No. Why? He shrugged. Because it must be a lot of money. We fell silent. The plane shook with turbulence. A flight attendant passed by, smiling, and I felt something in my stomach, something that was not hunger or nerves. It was a question without form yet. When we landed in Athens, the heat hit us like an oven. The airport was huge, full of people speaking in languages that sounded like music. David and I carried our suitcases with our backs hurting, following signs we did not understand. A Greek taxi driver charged us 120 euros for a trip that later we knew should cost 30. The hotel was in an old neighborhood, with cracked walls and a noisy elevator. But it had a window that looked out to the sea, and when I saw that blue sea shining under the sun, I felt something like peace. I threw my suitcase on the bed and took out my cell phone. I dialed Jason's number. I wanted to tell him we had arrived safely, that Greece was beautiful. That thank you. The phone rang. And rang. And rang. Voicemail. Maybe he's busy, said David. But he had also just tried to call Oliver, and it had also gone to voicemail. They must be sleeping, I said. But back home it was 3 in the afternoon. That first night in Greece I did not sleep. I stayed standing by the window watching the Aegean Sea shine under the moon, full like a black mirror. It was beautiful, so beautiful it hurt, because Emily should be there with me. She should be holding my hand and telling me, see, love, I told you, the gods fell in love here. But she was not there. Only I was there, an old man of 78 years in a country where I did not speak the language, with a phone that did not stop dialing his son's number without receiving an answer. David snored in the bed next to me. I remained standing, and at some moment in the early morning I whispered something I did not want to admit. "Jason, why do you not answer?" The question remained floating in the air, without answer, like so many others in my life. The next 3 days were perfect, too perfect. We visited the Acropolis and took photos with the Parthenon in the background. We ate in taverns, where the waiters treated us like family and gave us free ouzo. We tried Greek wine, olives that tasted like sun, feta cheese that melted in the mouth. David laughed. Me too. For moments we forgot we were widowers, that we were alone, that our children almost never visited us. But every night, when we returned to the hotel, we tried to call. Jason did not answer. Oliver neither. The WhatsApp messages stayed with double gray checks. Sent but not read. "Maybe they do not have signal," said David, but his voice sounded hollow. "Maybe they are busy," I said, but I did not believe it anymore. The third night, David sat on his bed and looked at me with those tired eyes of a retired construction worker. "Robert, I think something is wrong." And I could not answer him, because I believed it too. The last day before trying to return home, David and I walked through the port of Athens. There were docked boats, fishermen shouting, seagulls flying over our heads. Everything smelled of salt and fresh fish. David stopped in front of the sea. "Robert, do you think our children love us?" The question hurt me like a stone in the stomach, because I had been asking myself that same question for 2 years, every time Jason canceled a visit, every time he hung up quickly, every time he saw me but did not look at me. "Of course they love us," I told him, but my voice trembled. David nodded without conviction. "You are right. It is just that." He fell silent. He did not finish the sentence, because we both knew what came after that. It is just that. We walked back to the hotel in silence. We packed our suitcases. We went to bed early. The next day we had to go to the airport. The next day we would return to the States. The next day we would discover that the return tickets never existed, and that our children had sent us to die far from home. Jason was born on a Tuesday in October, when I was 33 years old, and worked in construction, raising walls for people who were never going to know my name. Emily and I lived in a rented room where the bathroom was outside and rats ran at night. When the nurse showed him to me through the glass of the newborn room, with his wrinkled face and closed fists, I felt something I had never felt: fear of not being enough. With my first paycheck after the birth, I went downtown and bought shoes for Jason. White, small, perfect. They cost me 2 days of work under the sun. When I put them on his tiny feet, Emily cried. "Keep them, love," she told me, "so that when he grows up he knows where he comes from." I kept them in a shoebox in the closet. But last year, when Jason emptied my house because, according to him, I could not take care of myself anymore, that box disappeared. "And the baby shoes?" I asked him. He did not even look at me. "I do not know what you are talking about, Dad. You are old. You get confused." And I stayed silent, because contradicting your son is admitting that you lost his respect. When Jason was 20 and wanted to study architecture, I sold my guitar. It was the only thing I had left of my father. A vintage Gibson with steel strings that sounded like a storm when you played it well, but college cost more than I earned in a year. So one Saturday I went to a pawn shop downtown, one of those where they look at you as if you were trash. The guy behind the counter checked it and offered me $300. "It is worth more," I told him with my voice trembling. "Then do not sell it," he replied, shrugging. But I sold it, because it was that or telling Jason he could not study. Emily found me that night sitting on the patio, with empty hands, looking at the place where I used to keep the guitar. She said nothing, just sat next to me and held my hand. 5 years later, when Jason graduated, I was in the front row with my only ironed suit. He went up on stage to receive his diploma. I stood up to applaud with tears running down my face. He saw me and kept walking without stopping. After the ceremony, I looked for him. He was taking photos with his friends. "Congratulations, son," I said. "Thanks, Dad," he replied without hugging me, and went to celebrate with people who had not raised him. After graduating, Jason got a job at a prestigious firm and moved to a condo downtown that I never knew, because he never invited me. At first he came every week to visit us, then every 2 weeks, then once a month. Emily always justified him while she cooked food he was no longer going to eat. He is building his future, Love, it has to be like this. But I saw how his visits became shorter, his hugs faster, his smiles emptier. One Sunday he came to eat, and spent the whole time glued to his cell phone. Emily had spent the morning cooking stuffed peppers, his favorite dish since he was a child. He ate 3 bites and said he had to go. "Already?" asked Emily with a broken voice. "I have a meeting, Mom. It is important." When he left, Emily stood watching the cold stuffed peppers on the plate. "He does not like them anymore," she said, almost in a whisper. "He does like them," I lied, touching her hand, but we both knew the truth. Jason did not like being with us anymore. We were his poor past, and he wanted to erase us from his rich future. 5 years ago, Jason knocked on my door on a Sunday at 10 in the morning without warning. I was still in pajamas drinking coffee. He entered without saying hello, with that face of urgency that desperate people have. "Dad, I need $10,000. It is an investment, a unique opportunity. I will return it to you in 6 months. I swear. I had those savings hidden in a coffee can under the sink. It was the money of my entire life. Every dollar saved with sacrifice, kept for emergencies." Emily looked at me from the kitchen with eyes full of concern. "But he was my son, and you do not say no to your son." I took out the can, counted the money, and gave it to him. He did not even count it, just put it in his backpack and gave me a quick hug that smelled of expensive cologne. "Thanks, Dad. I will return it in 6 months. I promise." 6 months passed, then a year, 2, 3, 5. One day I gathered the courage to ask him, "Son, what about the investment?" He looked at me as if I had insulted him. "Are you seriously going to charge me, Dad? After everything you gave me?" Emily grabbed my hand under the table, squeezing it tight. "Leave it, love," and I left it. But something inside me broke that day, like a glass that cracks, but does not fall until you touch it. Emily did not die of any disease. There was no hospital, nor doctors, nor machines beeping. She died on a Thursday in February, while I went to the market to do the weekly shopping. She did not want to go. "I am going to stay reading for a while, love," she told me, with that soft smile she used when she was tired but happy. "Take your time. Enjoy the walk." I went out thinking how lucky I was to have a wife who, after 45 years, still smiled at me like that. The market was full. I bought everything we needed: tomatoes, onions, chicken, bread. I had a coffee at a stand because it was cold. When I returned, 2 hours later, I entered the house, calling her, "Emily, I am home." Silence. I went to the living room, and there she was, sitting in her wicker chair by the window, with her favorite book in her hands. It was open to the page she liked the most. She had her hands still holding the pages gently, like someone holding something sacred. Her head was resting on the back, and on her face there was a trace of a smile, a small, calm smile, as if she had finally found what she was looking for. The afternoon light came through the window, painting her face gold. I approached slowly. "Emily?" I touched her hand. It was cold. She had gone while reading the words she loved, surrounded by light, with a smile on her lips, and I was not there to say goodbye. But she left happy, reading her favorite romance, with the sun caressing her face, without pain, without fear. She simply fell asleep and never woke up. I called Jason, crying. "Your mom died?" I heard silence on the other side, then his trembling voice. "I am coming, Dad. I am coming." He arrived 3 hours late, 3 hours in which I sat next to Emily, holding her hand, begging her to wake up even though I knew she would not. When Jason finally entered, he did not come straight to see her. First he stood at the door looking at his cell phone. Then he approached slowly, looked at her for 2 seconds, and started to cry. But I knew him. I knew him since he was a baby. And those tears were not of pain. They were of guilt. Guilt for not having visited her more, for not having called her more, for having let her die without telling her how much he loved her. And that guilt, instead of making him humble, made him cruel. At the funeral, while I was still watching them lower her coffin, Jason approached and said to me, "Dad, you should sell the house. It is too big for you alone." Emily had been buried for 2 hours, and my son was already thinking about money. The 2 years after the funeral were the longest of my life. The house became a museum of ghosts. Emily's perfume was still on the curtains, her shampoo in the bathroom, her hand cream on the nightstand, her toothbrush next to mine. I could not throw anything away, because everything was a part of her that I could still touch. Sleeping in our bed was impossible, too big, too empty, so I slept on the sofa with the TV on, so as not to hear the silence. David visited me every week. We came from the same pain. His wife had died 6 months after Emily. We sat on the patio playing dominoes without enthusiasm, drinking warm beer until the sun set and we no longer had to pretend we were okay. Jason appeared every 2 months, always in a hurry, always checking his cell phone, and he did not introduce her to me formally. He just said, "This is Tiffany," like someone presenting a new work tool. She sat on the sofa where Emily used to read, without asking permission, without taking off her shoes, and I felt that something sacred in my house had been desecrated. David told me his pain on Sundays, when we had drunk enough beer for the words to come out alone. My son never hugged me, Robert. Not once. Not even when he was a child. Oliver was always cold, calculating, empty inside. When his mom died, he arrived at the hospital in his dark accountant suit, signed papers with the doctors, organized everything with cold efficiency, like someone closing a business deal. He never cried. David cried alone in the waiting room, while the nurses cleaned the room where his wife had just died. I asked him why he did not cry. David told me with a broken voice, and he said, "Crying is not going to bring her back, Dad. We have to be practical." Practical. That word stayed spinning in my head for days, because Jason was also practical. Too practical, as if love was an unnecessary expense, as if we were an old problem that had to be solved. One day, drinking coffee in my kitchen, I told David something I had never given importance to. "Did you know that Emily inherited a piece of land in the suburbs from her dad? We never sold it because she wanted to leave it to Jason when we were no longer here." David put his cup on the table slowly. "How much is it worth?" I shrugged. "I do not know. It is an old lot with overgrown grass and trash, but it is in a good area." David stared at me. "Robert, does Jason know about that land?" I thought, yes, Jason knew. Emily had mentioned it to him years ago, but he never brought it up in conversation. He never asked how much it was worth, never showed interest. Until now. "Why do you ask?" I told him. David shook his head. "Because my house downtown is also worth money. A lot of money. And Oliver has asked about it lately." Too much. We fell silent. The coffee got cold in our cups, and although neither said it out loud, we both understood something horrible. Our children did not gift us a trip out of love. They sent us away for money. A week before dying, Emily had a bad day. She was tired, confused, saying things that did not make much sense. I thought it was the exhaustion of age. She called me with a weak voice from her chair. "Robert." I ran to sit by her side. She grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Her eyes, those brown eyes that had seen me young and had seen me grow old, were teary. "The important papers," she told me, breathing with difficulty. "They are kept in the Bible, in my nightstand." She fell asleep suddenly, with my hand still between hers. I thought she was delirious. That fatigue made her say things without sense. I never looked for those papers. I never opened the Bible. When she died a week later, I kept the Bible in a box along with her clothes, her creams, her reading glasses, everything that still smelled of her. And I put the box in the back of the closet, where I would not see it every day and break down. Now, from Greece, I think about that Bible every day. What papers? Why did she mention them? And why did I never pay attention? On the plane to Greece, while the clouds passed below us like mountains of cotton, I closed my eyes and heard Emily's voice again. "The important papers. They are in the Bible." David slept beside me with his mouth open and his hands crossed over his belly. I thought about everything we had left behind. The house, the memories, Emily's grave that I was not going to visit for 2 weeks. I felt guilty, as if I were abandoning her. But David had told me at the airport, "Brother, our wives would want us to do this, to live." And he was right. Emily always wanted me to see Greece. Now, finally, I was doing it. Thanks to Jason. My son had given me this gift, and when I returned, I was going to thank him properly. I was going to look for those papers Emily mentioned. I was going to put my life in order. David woke up and looked at me. What are you thinking about? That we are lucky, brother, I told him. Our children gave us a second chance to be happy. David smiled. Yes, we are lucky. And in that moment, 30,000 feet over the Atlantic, flying towards a country we did not know, with return tickets that we would soon discover never existed, we both truly believed it. The first days in Greece were an explosion of sensations. The white streets of Santorini shone under the sun as if someone had painted them that morning. It smelled of olive oil and oregano from the open taverns. David and I sat in a restaurant overlooking the cliff, trying to pronounce Eucharisto to give thanks. The waiter laughed with tenderness and brought us ouzo without asking. For the old men who still know how to laugh, he said, raising his glass. We toasted. The ouzo burned, but warmed the chest. David smiled. Me too. For a moment, I forgot my children did not answer the phone. For a moment, I was happy, but it was a fragile happiness like glass, is going to break. The next day, we met Nick at the port of Athens. We were lost when a huge man with prison tattoos approached. Need help, grandpas? He had a marked face and scars that told violent stories. David and I got nervous, but he smiled, showing gold teeth. Do not get scared. My name is Nick. He helped us with the suitcases and spoke to the taxi driver so he would not scam us. You are Americans, right? I love Johnny Cash. I watched all the movies in prison. He gave us his number on a crumpled paper. If you need anything, call me. We old guys take care of each other. 3 nights later, we found Nick in the same port drinking raki. He invited us to join him. We drank while the sun set. Nick told us, without anyone asking. I spent 15 years in prison. I killed the man who hurt my daughter. She was 17. He made a long pause. I got out 10 years ago. My daughter does not speak to me. She says I ruined her life, forcing her to remember. But I know I did the right thing. David said something that froze me. Children forget quickly, right? They forget what we did for them, but they never forget what we did not do. Nick nodded. Children are selfish. All of them. Without exception. Every night I dialed Jason's number. Every night. Ring, ring, voicemail. David did not contact Oliver either. The WhatsApp messages stayed with double gray checks, sent but not read. On the 4th day I wrote to him. Son, I am worried. Are you okay? Answer me, even if it is with a yes. The message never turned blue. David tried the same. Same result. We looked at our phones like time bombs. Robert, said David with a trembling voice, something is very wrong. I nodded. Our children were not busy. They were not without signal. They simply did not want to talk to us, and that was worse than any emergency. On the 5th day, we went to an internet cafe. We paid €2 each. I opened my email. There was a message from the bank sent 3 days ago. Dear Mr. Landeta, your account has been closed by request of the authorized holder. The balance was transferred according to instructions of the co-holder. I read it 3 times. What holder? I am the holder, I said out loud. David stopped breathing. Robert, me too. He showed me his screen. The same message. We stood looking at the screens in silence. The cafe smelled burnt. The Greek music kept playing. But our world had just collapsed completely. We ran to the U.S. consulate. The same official from before attended us with annoyance. You again? I showed her the message from the bank. They closed my account. I did not authorize anything. She read without interest. You have to see that with your bank in the States. But I am in Greece, I shouted. People turned around. I cannot go to the bank. She sighed with fake patience. Sir, maybe your family closed the account for you. It is common in people your age. To protect you from bad decisions. David grabbed the counter. Protect us from what? She shrugged. From yourselves. You know how it is. We left feeling like trash, like useless old men who can no longer take care of themselves. That night at 11, my cell phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Grandpa? It was Matthew, his voice terrified. I cannot talk much. Dad said I cannot call you. But I have to tell you, he and Tiffany are selling the house. Your house? Buyers already came. Dad said you gave him permission. But I know it is not true. The call cut off. Matthew? I dialed back. The number is not available. I tried 5 times. Nothing. David looked at me. What happened? I told him. He went pale and searched his messages. Robert, look. A message from Oliver. Dad, I put the house up for sale. It is for your future medical expenses. Enjoy Greece. David was hyperventilating. I do not have medical expenses. I did not talk about anything with him. We sat on our beds, finally understanding the truth. Our children did not send us on vacation for love. They sent us away to empty us, to rob us while we were not there, to erase us from our own lives. The closed accounts, the unanswered phones, the gifted tickets, I said, putting the puzzle together. They took us out of the way. David was crying. But why? We gave them everything. I had no answer. Only rage. A cold rage growing in my chest. Tomorrow we try to return, I said. But a little voice whispered, and if they do not let us return? That night, we did not sleep. At 3 a.m. we went out to walk through Athens. Empty streets, some drunkard. The two of us lost where we did not speak the language. Do you think we can return? David asked. Do we have return tickets? I lied. But I remembered I had never checked them well. And what if they were also fake? They sent us here so we would not be in the way, said David. While we ate olives, they sold everything. The next day we went to the Acropolis. Robert looked at the Parthenon for 10 minutes in silence. This place is 2,000 years old. It saw empires fall, and it is still here. Broken, but here. I am also going to fall. But I am not going to turn into dust. Not yet. In the taxi to the airport, David said, If something goes wrong, these days with you have been the best of my life. I hugged him. We are going to return. I promise. But I knew I was lying. The Athens airport was a human anthill. Happy families, couples kissing, children running. And us, 2 old men with worn suitcases and fear in the stomach. The line took 40 minutes. During that time, I mentally reviewed everything. Passport, ticket, ID, everything in order. See, David? Everything is going to be fine, I said, but his hands were trembling. When we reached the counter, a young employee received us with a professional smile. Passports and tickets, please. We handed her everything. She scanned the tickets. She frowned. Scanned again. The frown deeper. 1 moment, please. She called on the radio. David looked at me. What is happening? In my stomach, I already knew. A supervisor arrived. Greek man of 50 years, prominent belly, tired face. The employee spoke to him in Greek, pointing at the screen. The man checked our tickets against a light. Then he looked at us. In his eyes, I saw pity. That pity they look at you with when you are old, when you are a problem. Gentlemen, we have a problem, he said in English. He put the tickets on the counter like evidence of a crime. Your return tickets are not validated in our system. I felt the floor open up. What do you mean they are not? My voice sounded high. They do not appear as purchased tickets. They are forgeries or were canceled. David grabbed the counter. But it is printed. It has my name. The supervisor nodded. Yes, sir, but the paper means nothing if it is not in the system. The line behind was growing. Murmurs. A man shouted in Greek. A woman with a baby pushed us. Excuse me. All the stares. Annoyance. These old men are in the way. David was trembling. Please, there has to be a mistake. Our children bought these tickets. Jason Landeta and Oliver Rivera. Call them. The supervisor shook his head. I cannot call the states. What I can do is inform you that you need to buy new tickets. He said the price. $3,000. David let out a sound almost like crying. The supervisor was already ignoring us. Next, please. We moved to the side. The line continued without us. Happy families getting on planes. And us, invisible, with fake tickets. I am going to pay with a card, I said, taking out my wallet, trembling. We went to another counter. The employee scanned. Declined. Do you have another one? I took out the emergency one. Declined. David took out his. Declined. Another one. Declined. All rejected. I felt real nausea. Call your bank, sir. We found a corner near the bathrooms. It smelled of disinfectant and desperation. I dialed the bank. International line. 5 minutes on hold. How can I help you? I explained quickly. Typing. Silence. Mr. Landeta, your account was closed 2 weeks ago. By whom? By the authorized co-holder. Something in my chest broke. I am the only holder. Sir, your son Jason Landeta was added in January 2023. Full authorization, 2023. The insurance papers. And my money? Transferred to Jason Landeta's account. I hung up. David was sitting on the floor. People walked by, dodging him like an obstacle. I sat next to him. David, call Oliver. He dialed from my phone. Oliver answered on the third ring. Calm voice. Hello? Son, said David, breaking. I cannot return. The tickets do not work. What happened to my account? Silence. Then Oliver's voice cold as ice. Dad, we already talked about this. I needed that money for your future expenses. You are old. You cannot take care of yourself. It is better this way. Better? Shouted David. I am stranded in Greece without money. Oliver sighed. Relax. Enjoy a few more days. You will find a way. I have to hang up. I am busy. He hung up. David fell to his knees right there in the middle of the airport and cried like a lost child. We had no money for a hotel. Between the two of us, 200 euros. Enough to eat for 4 days if we were careful, but not hotel and food. We decided to stay at the airport. Metal benches near Gate 7. Benches with armrests so you cannot lie down. David was shivering with cold. I gave him my jacket. 3 in the morning, a guard approached. I thought he would throw us out. He just looked at us with pity. Okay? Okay, he continued his round. 5 in the morning. A Greek family woke us up. They gave us 2 breads wrapped in a napkin. For you? I wanted to cry. David could not eat. He just looked at the bread. My son did this to me. My son. 3 days sleeping in the airport. 3 days eating hard bread and what we found in the trash when no one was looking. Me, who built houses with these hands, looking for food in airport trash. David did not talk much anymore. He stayed looking into the void. I tried to stay strong for both of us, but inside I was breaking. Every night I thought about Jason, about his face when he gave me the envelope, about his quick hug, about "You deserve it, Dad." And I understood. That hug was a farewell, a goodbye in disguise. He never wanted me to return. He sent me to Greece to die, far from home, far from anyone who could help me. While I was dying here, he was selling everything. If you have ever been made to feel invisible, if you ever trusted someone who betrayed you, if they have taken everything from you, leaving you with nothing, then you understand what I felt. But stay with me, because what follows is worse, much worse, but also better. This story does not end in that airport. It is just beginning. And what David and I did next is what you have to hear. On the 3rd day, a different guard approached. He brought a local newspaper. He put it in front of us, pointing to the cover. There were David and I. Someone photographed us sleeping. The headline in Greek. But there was a photo. Old suitcases, tired faces, dirty clothes. The guard tried to translate with broken English. Children, leave. Old men, die. David looked at the photo and cried again. But I did not cry. I understood something. Now we were news. Now we were a scandal. Now we were evidence. If our children wanted to kill us in silence, we just ruined their plan. Everyone was watching us, and when everyone sees you, it is harder to make you disappear. I kept the newspaper. David, we are leaving here. Where to? I took out the paper where Nick wrote his number. To find help. After a week sleeping on metal benches, security guards kicked us out of the airport. You cannot live here, they said without looking us in the eyes. Where were we going? We did not know. We walked through Athens with our suitcases. David dragged his because he could no longer carry it. I did not have strength either. 78 and 76 years old, walking aimlessly in a strange country. Every step hurt. The knees, the back, the feet swollen inside shoes that no longer served. People dodged us in the streets as if we were trash, as if we were invisible. And maybe we were. 2 old Americans that their own children had turned into ghosts. The first night on the street we spent under a bridge near the port. It smelled of urine and rotten trash. We heard rats running near our heads. David trembled, not only from cold, from fear, from humiliation. I hugged him to give him heat, although I was also freezing. Robert, he whispered in the dark, this is how we are going to die, like dogs in the street. I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to promise him everything was going to be fine. but the words did not come out, because I did not know if we were going to survive either. I stayed silent, hugging my friend while the rats squealed and the cold bit our bones. And I thought about Jason sleeping in his warm bed while his father slept under a bridge. On the second day, we met a group of Syrian refugees who slept under the same bridge. They were 5 men of different ages, all with the same empty look of someone who has lost everything. One of them approached when he saw us sharing a piece of hard bread. "Are you Americans?" he asked in Spanish. His name was Bashir. He had learned Spanish working in a restaurant in Barcelona before being deported. "What are you doing here?" I did not have the strength to lie. "Our children abandoned us, sent us to Greece, and left us without money to return." Bashir nodded as if he understood perfectly. "Children forget," he said. "They forget where they come from. They forget who raised them. But God does not forget. God is watching them." That night, Bashir and his friends shared their food with us, leftovers from a restaurant they had taken from the trash. One morning, David could not get up. He had a high fever and shook uncontrollably. "Robert, I am so cold. I do not know how I did it, but I carried him on my back and walked 3 miles to a public hospital. He weighed less than before, but I almost fainted 3 times. In the hospital, they made us wait 5 hours. When they finally attended us, a young doctor checked his temperature and pulse. He has an infection. He needs antibiotics, rest, and nutritious food. They gave him only Tylenol. "It is the only thing we can give for free," said the nurse. On the way back, I passed a market. I saw oranges in a basket. I looked around. Nobody was looking. I stole an orange. The first time I stole in 78 years of life. I cried while walking with the orange hidden in my shirt. I cried while giving it to David. "Eat, brother." He ate, crying too. On the 5th day on the street, I managed to call the consulate from a payphone using my last coins. This time a different official attended me, younger, kinder. "Mr. Landeta, I read about your case in the newspaper. We are investigating, but these processes are slow. I need you to make a formal complaint." "How long does it take?" I asked. "It can be months," she replied. "Months?" My voice broke. "Ma'am, my friend is going to die. We do not have food. We do not have a home. We do not have anything." I heard her uncomfortable silence on the other side. "I am very sorry, sir. I will do what I can to speed up the process." She hung up. I stayed standing in front of the payphone, feeling how the last hopes escaped between my fingers. One afternoon, walking downtown, I saw myself reflected in a store window. I did not recognize myself. The man in the reflection had a grown beard full of dirt, dirty clothes that smelled of rancid sweat, eyes sunken in dark sockets. He looked like one of those homeless people I saw back home and to whom I gave some coins feeling pity. Now I was that homeless person. "I built buildings," I said out loud. "I raised walls with these hands. I worked 50 years, and now I am looking for food in the trash." I bent down in that corner and cried. I cried, not caring who saw me. A Greek boy of about 8 years passed, walking with his mother. He looked at me crying. He let go of his mom's hand. He approached and gave me a €1 coin. "For food," he said. His mom picked him up quickly, but that coin in my hand weighed more than any dollar I had carried in my life. That night, under the bridge, David spoke in a low voice. The fever had gone down, but he was still weak. "Robert, I never told you, but I have to tell you now." He made a long pause. "Oliver is not my biological son. His mother had an affair when we had been married for 3 years. She confessed to me when she was pregnant, but I decided to raise him as mine. I registered him with my last name. I gave him all my love." His voice broke. "And now I understand why he never loved me, why he never hugged me, why his eyes were always empty when he looked at me. He knew I was not his blood father. I hugged David in that darkness that smelled of misery. David, listen to me. That does not matter. You are his father. You always were. The one who raised him, the one who fed him, the one who loved him. That makes you his father more than any blood." One afternoon, walking through the port looking for food leftovers in closed restaurants, we heard a familiar voice. "Americans." It was Nick. He was unloading boxes from a ship. When he saw us, he left everything. He approached running. His face changed when he saw us. "What happened? Why are you like this?" I was so ashamed I could not speak. But David told him everything. the airport, the fake tickets, the emptied accounts, the streets, the hunger. Nick listened without interrupting. When David finished, Nick put his huge hands on our shoulders. Come with me, now. We cannot bother you, I said. It is no bother. It is an obligation. Between betrayed old men, we have to take care of each other. We walked behind him towards his truck. For the first time in days, I felt something resembling hope. Nick's house was small in the suburbs. 2 rooms, peeling walls, old but clean furniture. He gave us clean clothes that were too big for us. He prepared hot food for us, lentil soup, fresh bread, olives. David and I cried eating. We did not remember the taste of hot food. Then he showed us a room with 2 beds and sheets that smelled of detergent. Rest. Tomorrow we talk. Before leaving, he said something. My children also abandoned me. After I got out of prison, they did not want to see me ever again. But I did not give up. I recovered what was mine. And you are not going to give up either. That night we slept in beds for the first time in 2 weeks. And although we were destroyed, for the first time I thought, maybe we can return. Maybe we can get revenge. The next morning, Nick showed us a box with newspaper clippings. I was also betrayed by my family. My brother kept my father's inheritance while I was in prison. But I recovered everything, and I am going to teach you how. I looked at Nick and understood. This man was not an angel. He was an avenger. And we had just found our teacher. Nick had contacts, people who owed him favors, ex-cons, lawyers who worked in gray areas, a hacker who lived in a basement and had not seen the sun for years. Give me your sons' full names, birth dates, addresses, any paper you have. We gave him everything. Our IDs, the fake tickets, the WhatsApp messages, everything. Nick put everything in a yellow folder and disappeared. 2 days without seeing him. David and I stayed in his house, eating, resting, recovering strength. The 3rd day, Nick returned. He brought a thick folder. He sat in front of us at his kitchen table. Sit down properly, he said, because what I am about to show you is going to hurt. It is going to hurt so much you will wish you had not known, but you need to know everything if you want to recover what is yours. He opened the folder, and our world collapsed again. Nick took out documents one by one, putting them on the table. Property deeds, bank transfers, power of attorney documents, everything with our signatures. But I did not recognize my signature on some. This document says that you, Robert, sold your house in March. I froze. But I was in Greece in March. Nick nodded. Exactly. And this says that David transferred all his savings account on March 10th. David looked at the date. I was also in Greece that day. Nick smiled bitterly. That is why they sent you in February, so you would not be there when they forged the signatures. He pointed to a name on the documents. A notary did this. Her name is Elda Moreno. She has an office downtown. She charges $5,000 per fake document. She is Tiffany's friend. The air in the kitchen felt heavy. It was all planned. I whispered. Everything. Nick started to explain the complete plan, step by step. Jason and Oliver met 2 years ago in a Facebook group called Children of Elderly Parents with Properties. It is a closed group where wretched children share strategies to keep their parents' money. I felt nausea. Tiffany is the one who connected them. She is not just an influencer. She is a professional scammer. She has done this before with at least 3 other older men. Always the same pattern. She becomes the girlfriend of a son with an elderly father. She convinces the son to get the father out of the way. They forge documents. Sell properties. Disappear. David asked. And Oliver? Oliver is an accountant. He moved all the money to phantom accounts. And Jason is an architect. He appraised the properties to sell them quickly below real value. So no one asks questions. Nick took out more papers. They worked together like professionals, like a criminal enterprise. Nick put a special document in front of me. The land Emily left you. I looked at it. It was an official appraisal. I read the number. It could not be true. $1.5 million. My voice barely came out. Nick nodded. 1.5 million. That is why they sent you away. If you had found out the real value, you would never have signed anything. He turned to David. Your house in the suburbs is worth $800,000. David went pale. $800,000? And Oliver already sold it 3 weeks ago for $600,000. He kept everything. David started crying. Me too. Nick put his hand on the table. But there is good news. The sales were illegal. We can recover everything. But first you need to know how much damage they really did to you. Nick took out his laptop and showed us screenshots of WhatsApp conversations. A friend of mine hacked Jason's phone, David asked. Is that legal? Nick smiled. No. But neither is forging signatures. He started reading the messages between Jason and Tiffany. One said, Matthew suspects. I caught him looking through my papers last night. Tiffany's answer, lock him in his room. Take away his cell phone. He cannot talk to anyone until the old man is dead or missing. I felt something inside me break. My grandson, my Matthew, they locked him up because of me. I kept reading. Another message from Jason. What if he tries to escape? Tiffany, tie him up if necessary. He is on the spectrum. No one is going to believe him if he says anything. I threw up. Right there in Nick's kitchen. I threw up from rage, from pain, from helplessness. Nick closed the laptop and took something out of his backpack. A small, black device. This is a recording. My contact at a Greek phone company got it. It is illegal. It cannot be used in court, but you need to hear it. He pressed play. It was Matthew's call. His frightened voice. Grandpa. Dad said I cannot talk to you. And then the cut, but it did not end there. After the cut, a door was heard opening with violence. Jason's voice shouting, Who the hell did you call? Matthew crying, No one, Dad, I swear. A blow, a scream of pain. Matthew, No, Dad, please. Another blow, another scream. The recording ended. David and I froze. My son, I said. My son hit my grandson. Nick turned off the device. Your son is a monster. Both of them are. Nick took a deep breath. There is something else. Something I did not expect to find. He looked me straight in the eyes. Robert, I investigated your complete history. Family, records, everything. And I found something. You have a sister, Beatrice. The world stopped. Beatrice. How do you know that name? Because she disappeared 30 years ago. Everyone thought she was dead. Your family gave her up for lost. Tears were already running down my face. But she is not dead. She is alive and lives in Crete. 2 hours from here. I could not breathe. My sister is alive. Nick nodded. And she has information about your family. Information that Jason never wanted you to know. David grabbed my hand. Robert, you have to go see her. The next day, Nick took us in his truck to Crete, 2 hours driving on roads by the sea. We arrived at a small house with white walls and blue windows facing the beach. Nick knocked on the door. A woman opened, 52 years old, my mother's same face, my father's same eyes. Beatrice looked at me. I looked at her. 30 years of silence between us. Robert, she asked with a trembling voice. I could not speak, only cry. She came out and hugged me. The two oldest people left in our family hugging after 3 decades. I thought you were dead, I managed to say. I thought you had forgotten about me, she replied, crying. Nick and David left us alone. We entered her house, and my sister started telling me her story. Beatrice had fled the States because her husband beat her. He almost killed me one night. I managed to escape. I took a plane. I changed my name. I never returned. She wiped her tears. 10 years ago, I tried to contact you. I found your home phone number. But the one who answered was Jason. I told him who I was. I asked to speak with you. He told me. My father wants nothing to do with you. You did a lot of damage to the family by running away. Leave us alone. Rage burned me. He erased you from my life. Yes, said Beatrice. And now I understand why. Because I am an international lawyer. I work for the European Union on financial fraud cases. If I had been in your life, Jason could never have robbed you. She stood up and went for her laptop. Nick told me everything. And if what he investigated is true, your son and Oliver are going to jail. But I need all the evidence. Nick smiled. Evidence is the only thing I have. Beatrice opened her laptop and started working. Calls to the States, emails to prosecutors, contacts in Interpol. I watched her work and thought, my lost sister is saving me. But then she said something. Robert, there is something else. Emily wrote to me before she died. She sent me a package. She asked me that if something happened to you, I should give it to you. She said, if Jason betrays me, give this to Robert. I have that package. Do you want to see it? Beatrice, Nick, and a Greek lawyer named Demetrius planned everything at the kitchen table. We will get the tickets, but we will not notify anyone. You have to arrive in the States like ghosts. Without warning, without alerting, I need Jason and Oliver to feel safe until the last moment. Demetrius was a specialist in international fraud. I have seen cases like this before. The important thing is that you arrive when they are relaxed, when they think they won. Beatrice marked dates on a calendar. December 15th. It is Oliver's birthday. According to my contact, he is going to throw a big party. His whole family will be there. All the witnesses. Robert and David looked at each other. We are going to look him in the eye, said Robert, and we are going to recover what is ours. Beatrice took a yellowish envelope out of a safe. It was sealed with old tape. Emily sent me this 3 weeks before dying. She wrote to me, if something happens to me, give this to Robert, but only if Jason betrays me. She put the envelope in front of me. My hands were trembling so much I could hardly open it. Inside were photos. Jason entering a casino, Jason signing papers with suspicious people, debt documents, and at the bottom, carefully folded, a handwritten letter with Emily's trembling handwriting. I took it out. The paper still smelled of her gardenia perfume. I started reading, and with every line I felt something inside me break and rebuild at the same time. Stronger, harder, more dangerous. Emily's letter said, my love, if you are reading this, it is because I am no longer here, and because our son showed his true face. Forgive me for not telling you before, but Jason is not who you think. He has gambling debts, millions of dollars. He bet in casinos, on fights, on races. He lost everything. He came to ask me for the land 6 months ago. I told him no. That land was for you, for your future. He was furious. He threatened me. He told me, if you do not give me that land, I am going to solve things my way. I am scared, Robert, but I also left evidence. In the Bible that is in my nightstand, there is a USB hidden in the cover. Everything is there. Photos, videos, documents. Use it if something happens to me. I love you. I always loved you. Emily. The letter fell from my hands. David picked it up and read it. When he finished, he looked at me with eyes full of tears, but they were not tears of sadness. They were of pure rage. I read the letter 3 times. Each time the words hurt more. He threatened her, I said out loud. My son threatened Emily while she was dying. While I worked to feed him, he was threatening her to rob her. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. David put his hand on my shoulder. Nick approached and put his too. That is why we are going to destroy him, said Nick, but with the law, not with violence. With the law. Because the law is going to put him in a place where he is going to pay every day for every tear he caused you. Beatrice nodded. You are going to watch him fall, Robert, I promise you. And you are going to see it from above. You standing, him on the ground. Beatrice bought the plane tickets that same afternoon. Economy class. Departure on December 14th. You will arrive in the States the night of the 14th. You will rest. And on the 15th at night we will go to Oliver's birthday party. She showed on her laptop the invitation her contact had intercepted. Look. Grand celebration. Oliver Rivera's house. 8 p.m. Dress code elegant. It is going to be full of people. Friends, family, acquaintances, all the witnesses we need. Robert smiled. It was the first time he smiled in months. But it was not a warm smile. It was a cold smile. A smile that was scary. Perfect, he said. I want there to be witnesses. I want the whole world to see how they fall. The following days were of preparation. Beatrice trained us as if we were actors. You cannot cry when they see you. You cannot scream. You cannot show emotion. You have to enter as if you had been on a happy vacation, smiling, relaxed, because I need them to give themselves away. If you arrive furious, they are going to defend themselves. But if you arrive calm, They are going to confess, thinking they can still manipulate you, David asked with a trembling voice. And if they attack us? And if they try to hurt us? Nick stood up. I am going with you. And I am not going alone. 3 of my friends are going to accompany us. Greek ex-Marines who now work as private security. No one is going to touch a hair on your head, Beatrice added. And the police are going to be waiting outside. When I give the signal, they enter and arrest everyone. The days before the trip, Robert felt something he had not felt since before Emily died. Purpose. Reason to live. David felt it too. They went together to a Greek barber who cut their hair and shaved their beards. Then they went to a market where they bought cheap but decent suits. Black, tie, polished shoes. They tried everything on in front of a mirror. We are going back like kings, brother, said David. Like kings coming to claim their kingdom. They cried. They laughed. For the first time in months they felt alive, not just surviving. Living. With purpose. With future. With revenge waiting for them on the other side of the ocean. Robert and David were packing their suitcases when they heard Beatrice screaming in Greek from her office. She came out with her cell phone in her hand. Her face was pale. Robert, sit down. What happened? Sit down, please. I sat down. David, too. Beatrice took a deep breath. My contact back home just sent me information. Matthew is in the hospital. I felt the world stop. What? Beatrice started showing me photos on her cell phone. Matthew in a hospital bed, connected to machines, bruises on his face, eyes closed. Tiffany beat him. She pushed him down the stairs. He is in a coma. He has been like this for 3 days. I stood up. I have to go. I have to go now. Beatrice grabbed my arm. Robert, wait. Listen to me. But I did not want to listen. I wanted to run. I wanted to fly. I wanted to be with my grandson. Beatrice held me tight. If you go now, Jason will know you are alive. He is going to move all the money to accounts where we will never find it. He is going to hide the evidence. He is going to destroy everything we have against him. And then you will not only lose your money, you will lose the opportunity to put him in jail. He is my grandson, I shouted. He is in a coma, and he is going to be fine, said Beatrice with a firm voice. The doctors say it is an induced coma to protect his brain from inflammation. He is going to wake up. But if you arrive early and Jason escapes, Matthew will never have justice. David hugged me. Brother, if we lose now, Matthew suffered for nothing. We have to wait. That night I did not sleep. I walked along the beach of Crete until dawn. David accompanied me in silence. When the sun came up, I said, I am going to return, and I am going to make Jason pay for every tear of Matthew's, for every blow, for every second of pain. David nodded. And I am going to make Oliver pay for every year he lied to me, for every time he made me feel I was worth nothing. The next day, at the Athens airport, already in line to board, Beatrice's cell phone rang. She read a message. She looked at me and smiled. Matthew woke up an hour ago and asked to see you. I collapsed in David's arms, crying. And there is more, added Beatrice. He told the police who hit him. Robert, your grandson is stronger than all of us, and he is waiting for you. The plane touched down at the airport at 11 at night on December 14th. I looked out the window. The city lights shone like fallen stars. David squeezed my hand. We arrived, brother. Nick, sitting in the back seat, leaned forward. Ready? I nodded. We were wearing the same suits we had left with, black, ironed, dignified. But now we looked like well-dressed ghosts. Ghosts who had returned from death to collect what was owed to them. When we got off the plane and stepped on American soil, I felt something in my chest. It was not happiness. It was not relief. It was something darker, colder. It was thirst for justice, and that thirst was about to be quenched. Beatrice was waiting for us at the terminal with 2 rented cars. She hugged us. Welcome home. In one car were her, David, and me. In the other, Nick with 2 huge men, former prison mates of his, who now lived in the States working as security. Just in case, Nick had said, we did not go to my house. We did not go to any house. We went straight to City General Hospital where Matthew was. It was 12 at night. The streets were empty. I looked out the window, recognizing every street, every building, every corner. My city. The city where I had worked 50 years. The city where my children had betrayed me. Beatrice drove in silence. David slept in the back seat, exhausted from the trip, but I was completely awake, alert, ready. "Does Jason know Matthew woke up?" I asked. Beatrice nodded. "Yes, but he does not know Matthew spoke to the police. He believes his son is confused by the blow. He believes he is still safe." We arrived at the hospital, room 307. Beatrice knocked softly. A nurse opened. "Family of Matthew Rivera?" "Yes," I said. "I am his grandfather." She let us pass, and there he was, my grandson, sitting on the bed, with yellow bruises on his face that were once black, with a bandage on his head. But awake, alive. He saw me enter. His eyes opened wide. "Grandpa?" He started to cry. "Grandpa, I thought you were dead. Dad said you died in Greece, that you had a heart attack on the plane." I squeezed him against my chest. "I am here, my son. I am here, and I am never going to leave again." David approached and put his hand on Matthew's shoulder. Beatrice and Nick stayed at the door. Matthew did not stop crying. "I missed you so much, Grandpa. So much." Matthew told us everything through tears. How one night he heard Jason and Tiffany talking in the living room. How he went down in silence and heard them planning to sell everything. How the next day he searched in his father's study and found the fake documents, the deeds, the transfers, everything. Dad discovered me. He took away my cell phone. He locked me in my room with a key. 3 weeks, Grandpa. 3 weeks without leaving. He gave me food under the door. His voice broke. I tried to escape through the window. Tiffany saw me. She grabbed me. I resisted. She pushed me down the stairs. He touched the bandage on his head. I woke up in the hospital. Dad was there. He told me I had fallen alone, that I was confused, that you had died in Greece, and that is why I was like this. He looked at me with eyes full of pain. "Grandpa, they sold your house. They took everything, even the money Mom left me when she died. They are living in a new condo uptown, with my money." Before going to the party, Beatrice took us to one more place, my house, or what was left of it. Jason had already sold it, but the new owners had not moved in yet. We entered. It was empty, without furniture, without life, but I knew where to look. I went to the closet in the master bedroom. The box with Emily's things was still there, tossed in a corner like trash. I opened it. There was the Bible. I grabbed it with trembling hands, searched in the cover, and found it. A small, black USB drive. "Emily's evidence," I whispered. Beatrice connected it to her laptop right there. She started reviewing. Her face changed. "Robert, this is pure gold. Photos of Jason in casinos, videos of him threatening Emily, debt documents. With this, we bury him." I put the USB in my pocket. "Thank you, love," I told Emily in a low voice. "Thank you for protecting me until the end." I grabbed her hand. "Matthew, tonight we are going to go to Oliver's birthday party, and you are going to come with us." He got scared. "Me? But what if Dad hurts me again?" I used a voice I had never used before. A cold, hard voice, without forgiveness. "Your dad is never going to touch you again. I will take care of that. I promise you." Beatrice approached. "Matthew, we need you to come. We need the police to see you there. We need you to tell your story in front of everyone. Can you do that?" Matthew looked at his grandfather. The doctors did not want to let him leave, but Beatrice spoke with the hospital director. She showed legal documents. In the end, they signed a temporary permit. At 7 p.m. on December 15th, Matthew left the hospital with us, dressed in clean clothes Beatrice had brought, pale but standing, ready to see his father fall. Oliver's house was in an expensive neighborhood, big, with a garden, with colored lights hanging from the trees. Music was heard from outside, laughter, people celebrating. We arrived in the 2 cars, Beatrice, David, Matthew and I in one, Nick and his 2 friends in the other. It was 9 p.m. The party was at its best moment. We got out. I was wearing my black suit. David too. Matthew went between us. Beatrice rang the doorbell. No one answered. The music was too loud. She pushed the door. It was open. We entered. The hallway was full of balloons. The living room was full of people. Waiters circulated with trays. There was a long table with food, and at the back, by the window, with a glass of champagne in his hand, laughing at something someone was saying to him, was Jason, my son, the man who had sent me to die. Someone saw us first, an older woman. She screamed, "My God." Everyone turned around. The music kept playing a few more seconds. Then someone turned it off. The silence was total, absolute, as if someone had pressed pause on life. Jason froze with the glass halfway to his mouth. His eyes opened so wide I thought they were going to pop out. The glass fell from his hand. It broke on the floor. The champagne spilled like golden blood. Tiffany, standing next to him, went pale, white as paper. Oliver, the birthday boy, started shaking visibly. David walked straight towards his son. I walked straight towards mine. Matthew walked by my side. No one moved. No one breathed. Only us walking through that room full of strangers, ghosts that had returned from the grave. I stopped a meter from Jason. I did not touch him. I did not scream. I just looked at him. And with the calmest voice I had used in my life, I said, "Hello, son. I am back." Jason tried to speak. His mouth moved, but no words came out. "Dad." We thought. I interrupted him. "You thought I was going to die in Greece." "I know. I read everything. I saw everything. The fake documents, the transfers, the threats to Emily, the messages about locking Matthew up." His face changed from white to green. "I know you hit your son. I know you locked him up. I know you sold my house. I know you emptied my accounts. I know everything, Jason. Everything." I pointed towards the entrance door. "And now they come." 2 police officers entered, then 2 more, then 2 more. 6 police officers surrounding the room. The police did not waste time. One of them took out papers. "Jason Landeta, Tiffany Sepulveda, Oliver Rivera. You have arrest warrants for fraud, forgery of documents, child abuse, and domestic violence." Tiffany screamed, "This is a mistake. I did nothing. It was him." She pointed at Jason. "He planned everything." Jason looked at her, betrayed. The police put handcuffs on them. A woman at the party turned out to be Brenda Miller, the notary. They arrested her, too. "You do not understand," shouted Jason while they dragged him away. "He is old. I just wanted to protect him." Robert looked at me. "You hit my grandson. That is not protection. That is monstrosity." Jason tried to approach me. Nick intervened, his huge hand on Jason's arm. "Don't even think about it." The police took them away. Tiffany screaming, Oliver crying, Brenda silent, and Jason. Jason looked at me. Before they took him out the door, I approached. I whispered something in his ear, something no one else heard. He paled. He started to cry. His legs gave way. The police had to carry him. I turned around. I hugged Matthew. "It is over, son. It is all over." As the police cars drove away with sirens, David asked me, "What did you tell him?" I looked at the ground. I told him Emily told me everything before dying, that she told me he threatened her, and that now she can finally rest in peace, knowing he is going to pay. David hugged me. We cried, but not of sadness, of relief, of justice, of victory. 3 weeks after the arrest, the day of the trial arrived. The room was full. Journalists, curious people, people who had read the story in the newspapers. Jason, Oliver, Tiffany, and Brenda Miller, sitting on the bench of the accused in cheap prison suits, looked small, scared. Beatrice was part of the prosecution team as an international fraud expert. When she took the stand, dressed in her black suit, with perfectly organized documents, with her firm voice explaining every transfer, every forged signature, every money movement, I looked at her with pride. My sister, the sister I thought dead for 30 years, was now there methodically destroying my son's defense. The defendants planned this for 2 years. They used fake documents, corrupt notaries, and took advantage of the vulnerability of 2 elderly people. This was not a mistake. It was organized crime. The judge listened to her taking notes. The defense lawyer looked smaller and smaller. When they called Matthew to the stand, I felt fear for him. He was young. He had suffered so much, but he walked with his head held high. He sat down. The prosecutor asked him, "Can you tell us what happened?" Matthew started speaking with a trembling but clear voice. He told everything. The confinement, the 3 weeks without leaving his room, the food under the door, the attempt to escape. Tiffany pushing him down the stairs. Suddenly Jason stood up, shouting, "My son has autism! He does not know what he is saying. He is confused." The judge banged his gavel. "Order." He looked at Jason with contempt. "Your son is diagnosed with autism on the spectrum. His cognitive capacity is perfect. His testimony is completely valid. And you, Mr. Landeta, are going to remain silent or be removed from this room." Jason sat down. Matthew kept telling. Every word was a stab in his father's chest, and every word was true. When they called me, I took the stand calmly. The prosecutor asked me to tell my story, and I told it, everything. From the Sunday Jason invited me to dinner, to the envelope with the tickets, to the Athens airport discovering I could not return, to sleeping under a bridge, to eating from the trash, to the hospital where I found Matthew. I spoke for 40 minutes. The room was in total silence. Some people cried. When I finished, I said something I had been wanting to say for months. I gave life to that man. I fed him. I educated him. I sold the little I had so he could study. And he tried to take mine. He tried to kill me far from home to keep my money. But he did not succeed. He did not succeed because I am stronger than his greed. Because I have something he never had. Dignity. I got off the stand. Jason had his head down. He did not look at me once. Jason's lawyer tried a pathetic defense. "Your Honor, my client acted with good intentions. He only wanted to protect his father from bad financial decisions typical of his advanced age. It is common for older adults." Beatrice stood up, interrupting him. "Protect him? Do you call sending a 78-year-old man to another country without a return ticket protection? Is emptying his bank accounts protection? Is beating his own son and leaving him in a coma protection?" The lawyer tried to respond. Well, the circumstances. Beatrice interrupted him again. "The circumstances are clear. This was an attempted homicide by abandonment. They sent 2 old men to starve in a foreign country, and when the grandson discovered the plan, they beat him until almost killing him. Is that protection?" The lawyer sat down. He had no more arguments. He did not even try to rebut. The judge read the sentence with a firm voice. "After reviewing all the evidence presented, this court finds the defendants guilty of the following charges: aggravated fraud, forgery of official documents, abuse of vulnerable persons, domestic violence, and attempted homicide by abandonment." He paused. Jason Landeta, 15 years in prison. Oliver Rivera, 12 years in prison. Tiffany Sepulveda, 10 years in prison. Brenda Miller, 8 years in prison. The room exploded in murmurs. The judge continued. "In addition, the defendants must return all the stolen money plus damages calculated at $200,000 additional. The properties are returned immediately to their rightful owners." He banged his gavel. "This is one of the cruelest cases of family fraud I have seen in 30 years of career, and I hope it serves as an example for others who believe they can abuse their parents with impunity." Final sentence. David grabbed my hand. We both cried. While the guards took the convicted away in handcuffs, Jason turned around. He looked at me and shouted, "Dad, forgive me. I love you. Please, Dad." His voice broke. Tears ran down his face. Tiffany cried quietly. Oliver walked with his head down. Brenda went in silence, accepting her fate. But Jason shouted my name. "Dad, do not leave me. I need you." I looked at him from my seat. I did not move. I did not speak. I just looked at him. And in that look I told him everything I would never say with words again. I told him, "It is too late. There is no forgiveness anymore. There is no turning back. You are my son. You will always be my son. But you are no longer part of my life." They looked at him until he disappeared through the door. Matthew was by my side. He hugged me. "You did the right thing, Grandpa." I nodded, because I knew I did. After the trial, Beatrice took me aside. "Robert, I investigated more about Tiffany and found something you need to know." She took out some papers. "Tiffany has a daughter. Her name is Lucy. She is 8 years old. She lives with her maternal grandmother in a small town in Ohio. The girl knows nothing of what her mom did. The grandmother is a decent woman who works cleaning houses to support the girl. She showed me a photo. A girl with big eyes and a shy smile. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Beatrice looked at me seriously. Because that girl is going to grow up without a mother. She is going to grow up with the stigma of being the daughter of a criminal. She is going to suffer for something she did not do. And I thought maybe you wanted to do something. I stared at the photo. What do you want me to do? You decide. But I thought you should know she exists. I put the photo in my pocket. For 3 days I thought about that girl. A week later, Matthew and I traveled to Ohio. We found the grandmother's house. It was small, poor, but clean. We knocked on the door. A woman of about 60 with a tired face opened. Yes, ma'am. I am Robert Landeta, Jason's father. Her face changed. You are. Yes, I am her daughter's victim. She started to cry. Sir, please, forgive my granddaughter. She is not to blame. She knows nothing. I know. That is why I came. We entered. The girl was sitting on the floor doing homework. She looked at me with those huge eyes. Hello, she said shyly. Hello, Lucy, I replied. I sat on the floor with her. Matthew sat down too. Do you like math? She nodded. It is my favorite subject. I smiled. My grandsons too. We spent an hour with her. She was sweet, innocent, intelligent. She was not to blame for anything. When we left, I told the grandmother, I am going to create a trust fund for Lucy, for her education, so she does not end up like her mother. The grandmother fell to her knees, crying. She tried to kiss my hands. I lifted her up. Do not do that. Do it for your granddaughter. Make sure she studies, that she has opportunities, that she is better than us. She nodded, crying. I promise you. I promise you. On the way back, Matthew asked me, Grandpa, why did you help her? Her mom almost killed us. I looked out the window. Because that girl is innocent, and because breaking the cycle of revenge is the only thing that makes us different from them. If I had let her suffer for her mother's sins, I would have become the same as Jason. Matthew nodded. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, my son. 3 months later, a letter arrived from prison. It was from Jason. He asked for forgiveness. He said he was in therapy, that he understood what he had done, that maybe someday. I read it in front of David and Matthew. I folded it. I put it in a drawer. Maybe someday, I said, but not today. Today it still hurts too much. That afternoon we went to the cemetery, David and I. We brought flowers for Emily and for David's wife. We put them on the graves. It is done, love, I told Emily. They already paid. Justice has been done. You can rest in peace now. A breeze moved the flowers. David touched my shoulder. She heard you, brother. I smiled. I know. 6 months after the trial, I sold the lakeside property. A developer offered me $1.5 million. I sold it. I divided the money into 3 parts. One for Matthew, one for me, one for David. With my part, I bought a small house facing the sea in Florida, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with an ocean view, a patio where I could sit and watch the sunset. David bought the house next door, exactly the same as mine. Neighbors forever, brother, he said the day we signed the deeds. Forever, I replied. We moved in December, the same month that a year earlier they had sent us to Greece to die. But now we were not dying. We were living. Truly living for the first time in years. Matthew decided to move in with me. I do not want to go back to Dad ever again. Even if he gets out of prison, I want to stay with you. I enrolled him in a specialized school for kids on the spectrum. He had a talent for math. The teachers were impressed. He started going to therapy twice a week. At first, he did not talk much, but little by little, he opened up. One day, 6 months after moving, I heard him laugh. Laugh for real. He was on the beach with some new friends from school. They were playing in the sand. I watched him from the terrace and cried, because it had been so long since I had seen him happy. That night, during dinner, he said to me, Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to study psychology to help other kids like me who were hurt by their parents. I stared at him. You are going to be a great psychologist, son. He smiled, like you were a great grandfather. Beatrice visited us every month. She traveled from Crete to spend a week with us. We cooked together, recipes from our mom that neither of us had made in decades. We talked about our childhood, about our dad who died when we were young, about the things we did not say to each other for 30 years. One afternoon, sitting on my terrace watching the sea, she said something. "Forgive me for not coming back sooner. If I had been in your life, Jason could never have done this to you." I grabbed her hand. "Beatrice, there is nothing to forgive. You had to save yourself first, and you came back when I needed you most. That is the only thing that matters." She cried on my shoulder. "I missed you so much, brother. I missed you too. But we are not going to lose each other again. Never again." David was also healing. The first months he spoke little. He spent hours sitting on his terrace watching the sea. But little by little he started to go out more, to smile more, to live more. One day a certified letter arrived. It was a letter from prison, from Oliver. David opened it, read it. His face did not change. When he finished, he tore it to pieces. He walked to the beach. I followed him. He threw the pieces into the sea. The waves took them away. "What did it say?" I asked. He asked for forgiveness. He said he loved me, that I was always his father. David stared at the horizon. "But I do not have a son, Robert. Oliver died for me the day he left me alone in that airport." He turned to me. "But I have a brother. The best brother anyone could ask for." We hugged on that beach. Two old men who had lost their children, but had found each other. 3 months after moving, Nick arrived in Florida. "I got bored of Greece," he said, laughing, "and I missed my favorite Americans." He decided to stay. With the money he had saved, he opened a small Greek restaurant on the boardwalk. He called it The Three Old Men. David and I helped him. I washed dishes. David served tables. Nick cooked. The place was small, but cozy, and the food was incredible. At night, when the restaurant was full, Nick told our story. How we met in Greece, how he helped us when we were on the street, how we returned to the States to recover what was ours. Tourists listened with tears in their eyes. Some asked us for photos. "You are heroes," they told us. "We are not heroes," I replied. "We are just survivors." One day I received a call from a journalist. He wanted to interview me for an article. I accepted. The article went viral. Then came more interviews. Television. Social media. Suddenly everyone knew my story. They started inviting me to give talks in nursing homes, community centers, universities. I accepted them all. My message was always the same. Do not let your children convince you to sign things without reading. Do not let them make you feel like a burden. Do not let them treat you as if you were a problem. You built this country with your hands. You raised families. You worked all your life. You deserve respect. You deserve dignity. And if someone tries to take it away, even if it is your own son, fight. Fight until the end. People gave me a standing ovation. Then they came to hug me crying, telling me their own stories of family abuse. I listened to them. I hugged them. I told them they were not alone. 3 years after the trial, I made a decision that had been eating me up inside. I decided to visit Jason in prison. I went alone. I did not tell anyone. When I arrived, a guard took me to the visiting room. Jason entered. He had changed. He was thinner, his hair completely white, his face marked by years. He looked 20 years older. When he saw me, he started to cry. "Dad, thanks for coming." We sat separated by a metal table. "I did not come to forgive you," I told him. "I came to tell you something. I moved on. I have a new life, a new family, and I am in peace." I looked him in the eyes. "And I hope you also find peace, that you use these years to understand what you did, to change. But it is going to be without me, because I already let you go." I stood up. "Goodbye, Jason." "Dad, wait." I left without turning around. David was waiting for me outside in the car. "How do you feel?" I stayed silent for a moment. I took a deep breath. "Free! For the first time in 3 years, I feel completely free." David smiled. "Good. Because it is time we leave the past behind." We drove back to the coast in silence. But it was a comfortable silence. The silence of two people who no longer need words to understand each other. That night we had dinner at the Three Old Men. Nick prepared his specialty for us. Matthew was there too. Beatrice had arrived for a visit that morning, the five of us having dinner together, laughing, telling stories. And I thought, this is my family. Not the family that blood gave me, the family I chose. One afternoon, sitting on the beach, the three old men and Matthew, I said something I had been thinking a lot. I learned something in these years. I learned that family is not blood, family is choice. David is not my blood brother, but he is more my brother than anyone. Beatrice was lost for 30 years, but she came back when I needed her most. Nick was a stranger in a Greek port, but he saved my life. And Matthew is my son, not my grandson. My son, because I chose him, and he chose me. Matthew hugged me. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, son. David and Nick toasted with beers. To the chosen family, said David. To the chosen family. We all repeated. 6 months later, Matthew gave me a gift. A book, with a hard cover and gold letters. I wrote it. Grandpa, it is our story. I opened it. The title said, The Tickets That Never Existed. I started reading. By the 3rd page, I was already crying. Matthew, it is so others know that you can survive, he said, that you can start over, that it is never too late. I hugged him tight. I am so proud of you. Now I am 81 years old. David is 79, Nick 75, Matthew 21, Beatrice 55. Every day we sit on my terrace to watch the sunset. Every day I am thankful to be alive. I am thankful to have survived. I am thankful to have returned, because Jason wanted to bury me. He wanted to let me die alone in a strange country, but he did not know something. The seeds you bury in fertile soil do not die. They grow, they become stronger, they break the earth and come out towards the sun. And I was a seed, an old seed, but still with life. And when they buried me, I did not die. I grew. Today I look at the sea and smile, because I am in peace, because Emily can rest, because Matthew is safe, because David found a brother, because Beatrice came home, because Nick found a family, and because I lived again. And you? If you were Robert, would you have forgiven your son, or are there betrayals that do not deserve forgiveness? Tell me in the comments where you are watching us from. I want to know what you think. If this story touched your heart, leave me your like and subscribe. Every week I share real stories of people who lost everything and recovered it. Because surviving is not enough. You have to live again. See you in the next story.